everybody. This week we only have one video, and that is going to be the polynomials. We're going to classify them, and then we're going to add and subtract them. So let's jump in. So this is a polynomial is an expression containing terms. So let's talk about what a term is. A term is something being added or subtracted. So a couple examples here. I can have just a number. So for example, like 5. I can have two terms, meaning like 6x plus 1. I can have something that has numbers and variables, so like negative 3x. I could have something that has more than one or two terms. I could have 6x third power plus 9xy minus 4g minus 10. Okay, so you could have a varying number of terms. So what is it like to put something in standard form? Standard form must be written in alphabetical order with the highest exponent first. So let's talk about what that looks like. Remember, exponents are those little numbers with variables. So first we need to talk about alphabetical. That's A to Z, A being first, Z being last. In this first example, you see we only have x's. So now we're going to look at which exponent is the highest. Here this has an exponent of 2. If there is no exponent, it's a 1. And if there is no variable, it's a 0. So let's go ahead and do this from biggest to smallest. Obviously the 2 is the biggest exponent. So that gives me 2x squared. Then I move to my x that has an exponent of 1 plus 3x. And then my exponent that has a 0 plus 1. Great, let's try another one. Here's number 2. Again, I've got a 3, I've got a 2, I've got a 1, and a 0. Doing it in order from biggest to smallest. 7k to the third comes first. Then my k squared. This one's tricky. Make sure you bring that negative with you in front of that k. And then plus 64. Beautiful. I've got 3 and 4 here listed. 5 and 6, you can get varying answers depending on who you ask. But I always do mine with the combined variables first. So I'm going to do that and that first, and then move alphabetically. So my a and b are squared. That's obviously higher than the a and b that have a 1 on them. So I'm going to do 5a squared b squared. Then I'm going to do my 2ab. Now I'm moving into my single variable. So I have an a to the third and a b to the third. So I'm going to do a first because that's alphabetical. So plus a to the third. And then I'm moving on to my b to the third. Again, make sure you're bringing that negative sign with you. Let's try another example like number 5. Okay, so again, I'm going to do my combined ones first. So that's negative 7c squared d squared. Now I'm moving alphabetical. C first. Make sure you bring that negative sign. Plus 5d to the third power. And then obviously 13 is going to come last because it has no variable, meaning it's to the 0 power. Awesome. All right, let's talk about degree, which is classifying them by their degree, which we also call our exponent, or by the number of terms, chunks, which are separated by a plus or minus. All right, so if something is a constant, then that means it's just a number. Like 12, 14, negative 6. Those are all constants. A linear is when we have an exponent of 1. So that could be like 6x to the first power. Again, no exponent means to the first power. Quadratic means your highest degree is 2. So that could be like 3g squared. A cubic, again, it would be to the third power. Negative h to the third power. Quartic means fourth power. So I could do like negative 4m to the fourth. Awesome. The next thing we're going to talk about is the number of terms. That's chunks separated by a plus or minus. A monomial means it only has one term or one chunk. So an example of that might be like m to the fourth power, right? Just one chunk. A binomial means it has two chunks. So I could do 4g plus 6. Okay, here's one chunk. Here's another chunk. A trinomial has three chunks. So I could do like 6g squared minus 7h to the third plus 6. So here's one chunk, again separated by a plus or minus. Here's my second chunk and my last chunk. Very nice. Last one is a polynomial that has 4 or more, keyword there, or more. So I could have something that has 6, 7, 8 terms, doesn't matter. It just has 4 or more. And I won't give you an example of that because it could be multiple things, 4 or more terms, 4 or more chunks. Okay, let's start classifying these. All right, this one, we're going to start with our degree first. Obviously, there's no letter, meaning our degree is the 0. So here's going to be our constant. Okay, next we're looking at the number of chunks. This has nothing separating but between a plus or a minus. So it's just one chunk, meaning it's a monomial. I've done 8 for you. Again, it's one chunk, monomial, and the x is to the first power, meaning it's a linear. 9 here has two chunks. Chunk number 1 and chunk number 2. Looking at the highest degree, that would be a 1 on my p. So this would be a linear binomial because it has two chunks. All right, there's number 10 for you. That's a quadratic trinomial. Quadratic because the highest exponent is 2. Trinomial because there are 3 chunks. 4 here, my highest exponent is 3, so that's a cubic. And it only has 2 chunks, so again, a binomial. This is a quartic. Quartic meaning the highest exponent is 4. And it's a polynomial because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 chunks. Great. Let's jump into the meat of today's actual lesson. Here we are adding or subtracting polynomials. Let's jump into our adding examples, and then we'll see what the difference is between adding and subtracting. All right, when we are adding is very simple. We're looking for letters that are the same and exponents that are the same. So you'll see here, this first one, I have x squared. I'm looking for another term that has x squared. Here's my second term that is x squared. I'm going to look at the variables out front. So that's a -1 and a 2, not variables, your constants. Okay, and I'm going to subtract them. -1 plus 2. -1 plus 2 is just 1. So that gives me 1x squared. I'm going to continue that throughout the rest of this. So the next one I'm going to go look at is my x's. Here I have 11x minus 5x. 11x minus 5x gives me 6x. Okay, my last one, let's pick a different color here, is my constants. 13 minus 23. 13 minus 23 is -10. So we have x squared plus 6x minus 10. Fantastic. All right, let's try another one. Let's go down here and do number 13. Let's try another addition one while we're at it. All right. So again, we're looking at our exponents or our variables that have the same exponents. So we're going to start with our x's. Both of those have an x to the first power, so we're going to add. 1x plus 4x gives me 5x. Because I have nothing else but constants, I'm going to add my constants here. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. Beautiful. Let's try one more addition one. Here in number 14, again, we're looking for the things that have the same variable and the same exponent. Here's an x squared, or a k squared and a k squared. 1k squared plus 1k squared is 2k squared. Now we're looking at just our k's. Negative 4k plus 9k. That is 5k. And now my constants. 7 minus 3 is 4. All right, we'll go back to some more adding here in a minute. But now I want to talk about subtracting. Subtracting is a little bit weird because what I have to do with the subtraction sign is like distribute it to every term that we have. So I'm going to rewrite this first chunk as 4x squared plus 5x. And now I'm going to distribute that negative. So a positive or a negative times a positive is a negative. So negative 7x. A negative times a positive is another negative. So minus 3x squared. And again, negative times a positive is a negative, negative 1. I'm going to do the same actions that I did when I was adding. Combine my terms that have the same variable to the same exponent. Make sure you take the sign in front. So 4 minus 3 is just x squared. 5x minus 7x is negative 2x. And this negative 1 has nothing to combine with, so we're just going to place it at the end. All right, let's try some more examples of subtraction. Let's go down to number 19 real fast. Again, I have a subtraction sign that I have to distribute to everybody else. So I'm going to rewrite this first chunk here, x squared plus 17x. And I'm going to rewrite this here, negative 3x squared minus 5x. Combining my like terms, 1x minus 3x, negative 2x. 17x minus 5x gives me 12x. Okay, I want to show you one where it's a little bit different here. Let's look at number 20. Number 20, you'll see, again, I'm distributing that. So I'm going to have 5r minus 2s. Here comes the distributing. Positive times a negative is a negative. Here's the tricky part. Negative times a negative is now a positive. Make sure you are watching your signs. Very important. Now we're just doing the same thing. 5r minus 9r is negative 4r. Negative 2s plus 11s is 9s. I'm going to zoom out here for a minute so you can see 15, 17, 18. I'm going to fill in 16 here. Same idea. Now to keep in mind, we will need to add our x's. So 9 plus 3 is 12x. We're going to add our y's. Negative 5 plus 2 is going to be negative 3y. And this one's a loner, so I'm just going to tack it on at the end. Again, at any point in time, if you need to pause or would you like to go through these, please let me know. I'm going to zoom in here real quick to do 21 with you. Again, taking that negative sign and distributing it. That gives me 4c minus 11 minus 4c minus 11. Combining my like terms, 4c minus 4c is 0c, so I'm not going to put that down. Negative 11 minus 11 is just negative 22. Sometimes your terms will be 0 and you can just leave them out. Okay, there's 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. If you've got any questions about anything we've talked about today, please let me know and we'll set up a Zoom. Have a great day, guys, and enjoy.